Hello, good afternoon. It's Robin Jeffrey here, hypnotherapist on Mind at Peace, and we're away at the moment for a week. At the moment we're in the Cotswolds, a place called Moulton in Marsh. Very nice site actually. We come away a lot in the motorhome because it's a way of peace and quiet, and it just gives you a break from your normal everyday life. So this equipment that I've just got, I'm just trying it out now to see how good it is, and hopefully from that I shall produce quite a few videos on various things. There's three main things that I'm really interested in. One is weight loss, and I've done that myself over the last 6 months, lost over 2 stone in weight. And the way we did that was the keto method. I try not to use the word diet because diet conjures up the fact that you're giving something up. You don't really have to give anything up. What you do have to do is change what you do every day, your eating habits and what you eat. If you think to yourself, oh, I've got to give up this, I've got to stop that, yeah, there are certain things you've got to stop. You really need to do away with anything with carbohydrates in, because carbohydrates purely turns to sugar, and it depends on our bodies as to how they deal with it. And a lot of us that put weight on, our body obviously doesn't deal with it very well. So by cutting that out, that's all you have to do. You don't have to buy pills, any of these monthly subscriptions to different food packages. You can quite easily get a cheap book. On most high streets there's a shop called The Works, and in those shops you have some greatly reduced prices on books, and there are keto books. I bought 2. They were about half price. So for the sake of about £15, I bought 2 books, and we based our whole eating on those 2 books. Every morning I get up, I have 4 slices of bacon and 2 fried eggs, at least 5 days of the week, instead of a big bowl of cereal, which I used to like. But bowls of cereal just contains loads of carbohydrates, don't do you any good at all. You need fat, pure fats, from the bacon and eggs. Eggs are very good for you. Fish. So I will go in more depth later on as to various diets. My wife does lots of cooking, and she makes things like crackers, but she makes them out of different things. So you are substituting some of the things perhaps that you feel you're missing, but after a while you just get used to it. If you're going to drink milk, don't drink semi-skimmed or whatever, drink the full fat, because when you are on this keto you do need the full fat. What we normally do now is we buy a large carton of double cream and mix it with a carton of almond milk. Mix that in a jug and keep it in the fridge, and that is our milk for our tea or our coffee. Yep, a little bit strange to start with, but you get used to it. It's like all of our foods, even the foods that we think we love. A lot of the things that we eat, yes, they are nice, but our body doesn't cope very well. Bread is one of the things. Bread is a terrible thing, really. Our body doesn't really cope with it very well. Yeah, we all love it, fresh bread. If you've got a bread making machine, which we have, which is now in a cupboard, yeah, it smells good and it tastes good, but it doesn't really do you good. But what we do now we've both lost, my wife's lost more than I have. I think I'm down to more or less my base weight, which I've gone down from 14, just over 14, down to 12. And it fluctuates a few pounds here and there. I do weigh myself every day. I don't really get paranoid about it, but I like to just keep note. And when we are away, we will just treat ourselves to perhaps an ice cream every now and again, but we just don't go to a shop and buy massive great containers of ice cream and have it every night for pudding, like we used to, or I did anyway. So we don't do that so much anymore. And it works. So as time goes on, I'll go through some various different things with you, and you can give it a try. But a lot of people think that if you're going to lose weight, you've got to spend a lot of money on some kind of a program in order to do it. Well, you don't. We didn't spend anything apart from the money on the books. The stuff we buy to eat, you've got to eat anyway. I mean, we'll have those rice cakes instead of crackers, and cheese. Sometimes I'll have that for my lunch. I don't know if you like the tins of sardines and things, but we have lots of salad. And of course now there's all different salad leaves that you can mix in, rocket, various things like that. Adds a bit of flavour. So you can have a really nice salad. Mayonnaise, put mayonnaise on it, no problem. And I will just open a tin of sardines, just pour that on. Alright, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but that's what I like, and it makes a really good wholesome lunch. And the other thing is, if you start getting hungry, drink water. Water will fill you up, but it'll fill you up in a good way, so it'll stop the hunger. My biggest downfall with this so far is nuts. If there are nuts in the house, I will just keep eating them. And of course what happens when you find that you've lost, say, 2 stone, which I have, you'll notice that it keeps getting stuck. Your weight gets stuck, and my biggest downfall there is eating the nuts. But again, if I really feel a craving to eat nuts, I will just fill up my steel container with really cold water, and I will drink as much water as I can, which again then fills you up. So that's something that I'm going to go into in the next few weeks. Another thing, a passion of mine, is something that I got rid of about 10 years ago plus, is smoking. Another habit that we can all live without, and most of us that started wished we never had, but we did for whatever reason. It looked good at the time, I think, is what most of our reasons were. I mean, I started when I was 10, and now I've been about 10 years smoke free, and I had given up several times in between. One of them was for about 5 years, so you'd think after 5 years you've cracked it. But no, I started again, and the thing is, I started as though I'd never stopped, which is strange. So I used to smoke 20 a day, and I went straight back in 20 a day. And yeah. And after a while I started trying patches and gum and various things, but I got to a point where, especially the gum, that I was more addicted to that. I still needed the nicotine, so I may have stopped. I went probably for a year without really smoking, just the odd one, but having the nicotine gum. I didn't feel, in a sense, that I had achieved anything really, because I was still addicted to the nicotine. I just got rid of the habit of lighting up so much. I still did it occasionally, but not so much. So that's another one of my things. And as a hypnotherapist, there are certain ways that you can assist, but there's one thing with smoking, probably the same as weight loss. If you're not really up to it, if you're just thinking, oh, you just want to do it, perhaps your other half, your partner has nagged you to stop, and you think, yeah, all right, I'll do it. 9 times out of 10, that's not going to work. It's you, yourself, that's got to be the one that wants to change your life. Eating correctly is a way of changing your life. Stopping smoking, again, is another. You change your life and become a non-smoker. You don't give up smoking, you just go back to being a non-smoker. Let's face it, we all started life as non-smokers. It's only us that have taught ourselves how to smoke, because in them first few days, weeks or whatever when you started, you probably coughed, spluttered, heaved, whatever. In other words, your body knows it's a foul thing to do, and that's why it objects to it. But in the end, it gives up because we persist. that you're going to do it whether you like it or not. So in the end, your body seems to give up. So that's another thing. The other thing as a hypnotherapist that I'm really into is kind of delving back in time. I do past life regression, but in this lifetime, when there is either a traumatic event or an event somehow that has changed your life. I have had a few people now come to me with a problem. I don't always know what the problem is, and it doesn't actually matter. I don't always need to know, because I can get a person to go back to a time in their life that they feel something happened that changed the way they are now. And if you can go back to that point and you can work through it, because what tends to happen to us when we're in a very traumatic experience, we shut it down, because that's our way of coping with that situation. We shut the situation completely down and it gets locked. But perhaps in time, as we go along, little bits of that start coming back to the surface and affecting us in some way. Thoughts wise, we just feel down, anxious. All sorts of things can happen as a result of locking some form of trauma in to your mind. So there are different ways that I can use to take you back to that time. Just yourself. You take yourself back. A hypnotherapist is only a person that facilitates a way of you using your own mind where this information is locked, because it's not locked in mine, because I don't know what the problem is. So it's in your mind, and I just help you go back and, in a way, deal with whatever the problem was. So in other words, yes, it could be still traumatic, and I've had people use a box of tissues where they really are stressed, but afterwards they've released that trauma. And once you've dealt with it and released it, yes, still there. If you see something that's very horrific, you can't take that away. There is no magic in hypnotherapy or any other thing that can blank that completely. That is an image. But what you can do is take all of the emotion and stress away from that. So yes, it's still there because it happened, but you've managed to deal with it and put it basically back on the shelf, but one where you can handle it. Whereas before that, it hasn't been handled. It's locked away, frozen in time. But we need to go back and release that. So that's another area that I really am interested in. And over again, the course of some videos and time, we can go through things. We can do small exercises. I can do hypnotherapy by just using the technique that I'm using by just talking to you now. And it works. Since the lockdown, it was quite strange really. When the lockdown came, I had two people that were really wanting to come for a couple of sessions on some various bits and pieces. And the minute the lockdown came, I thought, I don't know what to do. What do I do? Anyway, that's when Zoom came in, and so I downloaded Zoom and I've used that quite successfully. I've even had a person in Australia, another person in New Zealand, and I've done it live on Zoom. Yes, all right, there's a bit of a time difference, so you know, one of us is either up late at night or up early in the morning, depending on which way round we do it. Yeah, the funniest one I ever done was a lady. She had a house full of children. She couldn't get no peace and quiet. So I think it was early evening in New Zealand. So she went and got in her car and was just using her mobile phone. And that was okay. I could see everything. I just needed to see her expression. So basically I could judge what was happening to her during the different stages of her hypnosis. And as the time went on, of course, it got darker. And there come a point where I could hardly see her at all, but I just carried on because she could hear okay. But we both laughed about it afterwards because it was nigh on pitch black by the time we'd finished, but we still managed to achieve what we set out to do. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that now, and I will be making more videos very soon. And as we go around in different places, I might even show you a few photos of the areas that we're in. Just, yeah, it's all calming. It's a good way to just unwind and basically put your mind at peace. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon. Bye now.